Happy Thursday. We have a little bit of traffic going on in front of my videos here. Hang on. Hi. Okay, now we're live. Sorry about that. Let's see if we can get situated again. Hi. A little bit of technical difficulties here this evening. Welcome. Thank you for joining me live. Go ahead and comment below if you're joining me. Let me know you're here and say hi. Tell me where you're coming from. It's Thursday. I'm Mary from Mary's Heirloom Seeds, and I go live every Thursday. And the last couple weeks, we've been going live here on our YouTube channel instead of our Facebook page. So a little bit of a learning curve for me here. Hi from Oregon. Hey, Susie. Hello from in Sacramento as well. Please bear with me here. Today we're going to talk about growing in small spaces. I had a little bit of a technical difficulty to get started. If you are not subscribed to our channel, please hit that subscribe button, like our video, do all that fun stuff. Behind me here is a very small square foot garden. It's not really a square foot garden, I should clarify. It is a raised bed garden. So I'm going to share with you about growing in small spaces. Why small spaces? So if you're just joining me, our live videos lately have been answers to specific questions that customers have asked on our website. If you want to have your questions answered in a YouTube video, you can go to marysheirloomseeds.com. That's our website. And you can go to the Grow Your Own Food page. And at the very top, there's a little survey. You can answer the questions and ask your question. So, what are some important things to consider before growing in a small space? Say you've got a limited space. Maybe you've got a patio. Maybe you don't have a gigantic yard. Hey, David, thanks for joining me. Maybe you just want to get started with something small and you don't want to grow this massive garden, even if you have tons of land. So a raised bed is one of many options to grow in a small space. You also have container gardens, like using a bucket. Or if you check out some of our other videos, we've got a blue barrel garden where you can cut the barrel in half and flip it over, and now you've got two. Hey, Dr. Hart, welcome. So we've got our two awesome admins tonight joining us here. So what are some important things to consider? Got a cool little bug joining me here, totally easily distracted by awesome bugs. David says I'm doing all the above and some hydroponics. Awesome, love to hear that. So very important to consider is sun, soil, and water. So sun, we definitely need to make sure that our garden area, if we have a small space, we need to make sure that it has adequate amount of sun. Soil. Oh my goodness, I cannot tell you how important it is to have healthy soil. If you are limited in your space, if you're limited in how much you can grow, it's really important to have healthy soil if you want healthy plants. So if you're getting started with something simple, hey Crystal, hey Garden State Gardener, welcome. If you're just getting started with some soil, I really recommend the Mountain Flower Root Boost. It's something we carry at Mary's Heirloom Seeds, and it's something I use in every single garden. Behind me here, I have used the Mountain Flower Root Boost in this garden. Definitely hit that like button if you haven't already. I would appreciate it. So healthy soil, because if you're limited in space, a productive garden is so important. And if you want a productive garden, healthy soil is so important. So what else here? Now, let me give you some precautions here. You can't really see it very well, but there's a tree back here. That tree was killed by gophers a couple years ago. But I learned my lesson early on this property. I planted some garden beds around some trees that were living. And unfortunately, those trees, those roots grew up into my garden beds. So if you are growing in a small space, in a raised bed, you're not going to want to plant it around trees where the roots will possibly come up into your garden bed and choke out what you're growing in that raised bed. If you're growing in buckets, it is less of a concern, but it is still a possibility. If you don't want that to happen, there's a couple things you can do. It's a little windy out today, but it feels so nice to be outside in the fresh air. You can put some landscaping cloth down. You can put a couple things of, hey, Jesse, thanks for joining us. You can put a bunch of cardboard down that will help block some of those roots from coming up. In this raised bed, again, because that tree is dead, it is no longer living, I'm not pulling it up. Why am I not pulling it up? I'm going to use those branches from that tree that is hanging over the raised bed. That will give me a little bit of shade in the heat of the summer, but it will also give me an opportunity to plant some things that are vining crops and use those branches that are already there. So it's going to serve a purpose here, even though it's no longer a living tree. Unfortunately, we have gophers here. I did mention that earlier, and they are little garden destroyers. Hey, Robert, thanks for joining us. So if you've got different types of rodents or pests, that's another thing to consider when you're starting growing in a small space. This raised bed here, this has gopher wire underneath it. You can use chicken wire, you can use hardware cloth, kind of whatever you have available to you where you are. I just used the gopher wire that I had left over from some of the other raised beds. This is kind of like, I'll be honest, this bed is an experimental bed. I bought this years ago. I want to say 5 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. And I was going to see about if this was something that I might be able to share with my customers to use to make a raised bed without having to spend a ton of money. Or if you don't have any power tools, this is a great option because there was 0 power tools involved. All I had to do is clip each piece of wood in. Now I will say this, I don't remember who manufactures it. It is not the best option for a raised bed. We have instructions. Hey, Rolling Hills, welcome and thank you for joining us. So in our YouTube videos, we do have several videos on making your own raised bed, and I also have some videos about using starting a bucket garden and starting a blue barrel garden. So all the things that I'm mentioning to you in this video, they're all available on our YouTube channel. But like I said, this is not the best option, but it is an option as well. It required 0 power tools, which is a plus for some people if you don't already have the equipment. All right, so we've already talked about where to position it. You need sun, you need plenty of water, and you need it to be in an area that if you have trees, that you're not gonna have tree roots growing up inside. But let's talk about what to grow. So we've got sun, we've got soil, we've got water, we've got critter protection. What are we gonna grow? Well, what do you want to grow? Basil is probably my favorite. Now, because of the way the camera is situated, you can't really see what else I have growing in here. I do have little baby basil sprouts growing up, but you can't really see them. You really only see the big stuff. Now let's talk about what the big stuff is. You've got a tomato in the corner. Why did I put the tomato in the corner? Now that is an indeterminate tomato, which means it's gonna grow very tall. Indeterminate tomatoes are also called vining tomatoes. So that means it's gonna grow up and I can use it, I can use one of our homemade tomato cages that we have. Also have a video on that as well. And I also have some lettuce, some Swiss chard. It's not a Mary's garden without Swiss chard. We've got 2 different colors from our rainbow garden, rainbow Swiss chard. I've got butter crunch lettuce, and then I've got, I don't think you can see it. She says, Crystal says, don't laugh at me, I have 25 varieties of basil. I've got a bunch of different varieties of basil as well, but this one in particular is Thai holy basil and let's see, purple basil. But if you are growing in small spaces and you're limited to the size of the plants that you're going to be growing, the Spicy Globe Basil is fantastic. Now, the great thing about the Spicy Globe Basil is it grows in a globe and it's a dwarf plant. So if you are growing in small spaces, that is an excellent option. Our wood chip garden, welcome and thank you for joining me tonight. I'm glad you made it. So now I'm going to talk about specific varieties that would grow really well in a small space. Rattlesnake pole beans. Things that are vining, things that will grow up are fantastic for a small space because you're not using the ground cover, you're growing up. So the rattlesnake pole bean is a very productive variety and it will grow up, which is awesome. Let's see what else we have. Double yield cucumber. Kaylin over at Elbun Mills Farm has raved about how amazing her double yield cucumber production was last year. So exciting that she's growing double this year. She sent me a picture and there were so many blooms and blossoms on her double yield cucumbers. I'm really excited to see how well she does this year. Another option is the Cucumelon. Some people love it, some people hate it, but the Cucumelon is a very small cucumber. It looks like a watermelon. If you're looking to purchase it on our website, it is called Mexican Sour Gherkin Cucumber. And that is a really good one. It grows in containers. It grows well in raised beds. My friend Terry is in Colorado. She sent me pictures of her cucumelon and it was thriving in a container. So if you're growing in a container garden, that is a really good one for you as well. Let's see, Thumb Pea. The Thumb Pea is a very small, compact variety of pea. So that is a really good one. Jessie says her review convinced me to try them this year and I got the cucumelons too. Awesome. For those of you just joining me, welcome. I'm Mary's Heirloom Seeds and today we're talking about growing in small spaces. You can find a lot of this information on our website at marysheirloomseeds.com. And Jessie just mentioned reviews. If you've tried some of our seeds and you've loved them, please feel free to go to our website, find that specific variety and write a review. Our customers love to hear how other customers have done growing our seeds. What else? I already mentioned the Spicy Globe cucumber. Spicy Globe basil. In this garden bed, I'm growing the opal purple basil, as well as the Thai holy basil. I love basil and I really couldn't get enough of it. I've got more basil growing than I care to admit this year. The dwarf blue curled kale is another one. We carry a lot of different kale varieties. Just stopping to listen to the birds chirp. The dwarf blue curled kale is an excellent variety. The dwarf Siberian kale is another one as well. I prefer the dwarf blue curled kale over the Siberian. It's a little more compact, but either one is really good. I've had some people say I don't want the dwarf varieties, and I've had some people say I only want the dwarf varieties. And again, it just depends on your space and your taste. There's a lot of varieties that we have available, so I'm sure we can find something for you. And butter crunch lettuce, I already mentioned. Right behind me, there's a little dwarf, well, not dwarf, it's just small, butter crunch lettuce. It's really good for salads. I just planted a bed for my mom. I planted 2 raised beds for her in her house. She's got a new house with a little teeny space for gardens. So we planted some of the same varieties that I've got here in my own garden, because you're dealing with a small space. What else? Dwarf Pak Choy. That's what you see here in this raised bed because they're teeny tiny seeds just getting started out. The Dwarf Pak Choy is a Chinese cabbage variety, very similar in style to the regular Pak Choy, but they grow a lot smaller. Now, if you've got amazing and killer soil, maybe they're gonna grow a lot bigger for you than some, but the Dwarf Pak Choy is an excellent variety for small spaces. You could probably grow 9 maybe Dwarf Pak Choy in a single square foot garden. So if you're following the square foot garden method, that is an option for you. Let's see, David says, don't worry, Crystal, I have 50 varieties of peppers. about 50 varieties of vegetables from Mary at Mary's Heirloom Seeds. Awesome. We love to hear that. The climbing French bean. If you like a really good French green bean, the climbing French bean is a great option for you. It is not a bush. It is a pole style of bean, so it will do really well in either containers or in a small space. A brand new one for us is the sheep nose pimento pepper. I know David just bought that one. So to add to your pepper varieties. Yes, Veronica, a lot of these I'm discussing here today will grow in containers. We have a link on our website of specific varieties that will grow fantastically in containers. So definitely check that out as well. As soon as I'm done with this video, I will share all of these links in the description section of this video. I can't share the links while I'm live, but I will share them as soon as I'm done and this video is uploaded to YouTube. Thank you very much for all of you joining me live. Let's see what else. Faster maturing varieties. So some of these varieties that can grow in containers and raised beds that will grow quickly include leaf lettuce. That's going to be Tom Thumb lettuce. Patriots Rabbitry, welcome and good evening. Let's see. So Tom Thumb lettuce, Little Gem lettuce, Butter Crunch lettuce, all of those varieties I've already mentioned. Best bang for your buck. It wouldn't be a Mary's Heirloom Seeds video if I didn't mention Swiss chard. Yes, please make sure you like and subscribe to this video. Share it on Facebook if you get a chance. I think my favorite Swiss chard variety now is the Flamingo Pink Swiss chard. I love all Swiss chard. The Ruby Red has been the most prolific variety that I have ever grown. So definitely recommend the Ruby Red Swiss chard. In this garden bed, I have the Rainbow Swiss chard. I've got a red variety there and I've got a green variety there. So Rainbow Swiss chard is nice because you get a bunch of different colors in a single pack. But the pink is just gorgeous. It really makes your salads pop. Or if you're growing it, just to add some color to your garden, the Flamingo Pink Swiss chard is amazing. And it will grow very well in containers and in small spaces. And as I mentioned, faster varieties. Let's see. Hey, David. It's the other David. Oh, very cool. We have two Davids that join us every week, so welcome. Crystal, I know you're growing some Swiss chard that I recommended as well. And I did mention indeterminate tomatoes. Indeterminate tomatoes will grow great in a container and in a raised bed. And you can trellis them up, you can cage them up or stake them up, and that way they are less sprawling. Hey Jane, thanks for joining us. We've got some of our regulars here that usually join us on our Facebook page, and I am gonna try and keep going live here on our YouTube channel instead of Facebook. I really love that we can save all of this information here on our YouTube videos and they won't go anywhere. So I mentioned the Dwarf Pak Choy and I mentioned the lettuce. What I forgot to mention is the red romaine. That is another variety that will do very well in small spaces, whether you're growing in a container or whether you're growing in a raised bed. I've got a YouTube video here about growing lettuce greens in a blue barrel. And for that one, I used our Gourmet Greens Mix. You can find it at marysheirloomseeds.com under greens. There's a lot of different lettuce varieties. We've got a couple mixes. So instead of having to buy a full pack of every single one, we've got 3 or 4 mixes, I believe, that you get a bunch of different varieties all in one pack, which is kind of fun. So that is it for me as far as growing in small spaces. So just to recap, you want to make sure you have plenty of sun. It is shaded right now because it's 5:20, so it is shaded at this time of day, but it does get full sun during the day. You want to make sure you have a water source, which is on that side, and you want to make sure that you have healthy soil to produce healthy vegetables. If you have any questions, I am Mary at Mary's Heirloom Seeds. You can send me an email to mary@marysheirloomseeds.com. And if you'd like your questions answered, you can send us an email, or if you want us to address them in a video, go to our website, which is marysheirloomseeds.com. and go to our Growing Your Own Food page. And at the very top, there's a little section there. You can fill out the survey and ask your questions, and I will try to answer them for you. You've got videos on our YouTube channel about starting a bucket garden, about growing in a blue barrel, and about building your own raised beds. And in those videos, I also include my information about soil, about making your own soil. It's so easy, you can do it. If you've got any questions, like I said, send an email, comment below, do all that fun stuff. Like our video, share it, subscribe to the video. I'm gonna sign off. I've got some seeds to plant. I've got some dinner to make here, and I'm gonna sign off, and I hope you have enjoyed our video. We will be live here, hopefully, fingers crossed, every Thursday at 5 p.m. here on our YouTube channel for Mary's Heirloom Seeds. Thanks for joining me, everybody, and happy planting.